One of the hardest things I've ever had to do is burn my boats. And in doing so, in order to develop a higher level of resilience than I ever have. Thinking about it, 3 years, 4 years ago, I decided to go all in and just burn my credit. The biggest thing for me burning my boats was to max out my credit cards and not do any work in terms of like part-time or full-time, focusing solely on creating a coaching program in order to level up my ability to public speak and to develop a better time focus solely on doing coaching. Fast forward now, some of the things I learned from that were all about more resilience, holding for longer, being patient, and really focusing on communication. Throughout that time, I've found many different programs that helped me to get better, like getting into NEPQ at the time with neuro-emotional programming questions, as well as learning through many different seminars and how to structure a module course through Mastermind. So as far as with resilience, how that went was throughout the course of this time, I've had to learn how to deal with delays in payment or having to wait a long period of time for payment to happen. One company I had worked with had told that had like allowed me to work for them, and I took that as a challenge to tolerate working a 30-day period. This company would sometimes pay me 30 days later, 60 days later, and at times I even had to wait 90 days for payment to come. Instead of complaining about it and being mad about it, I think initially sometimes I would be mad because bills were that tight, and going from like literal paycheck to paycheck, as well as having to somehow figure out how to make all of this work, knowing that I was going to go deeper into debt without any relief, and wait for that payment to come. That's something I'd never done before. Waiting 30 days to be paid, waiting 60 days to be paid, or even 90 days to be paid. And I use that as like a precursor to having to wait for like a residential deal to close. I go back into things like Dan Fleischman talked about how he would have to wait 30, 60, or 90 for his retail deals to close when it comes to making products like water, alkaline water, or energy drinks, or the fruit acai bowls that his friend made for vegetarians and vegans. And thinking about that, I was like, oh, okay. So I learned to tolerate it. I learned to be more patient about it as well. And I learned to get creative about it. It also taught me, in the sense of, while being resilient, to also be more controlling of how much I spend. Before, I think when I would celebrate, I would spend just to celebrate. And I think now that there are different ways to celebrate and being more resilient, as well as being more patient. So like I can't have every time that paycheck comes to go take myself out to a nice meal, or to go buy the next video game, or to do something else that involved spending like a big thing of money. That's not to say that I don't do that before. I used to, my financial planner used to talk about how that spending was like, you take yourself out to one nice meal versus taking yourself out to 4 nice meals a week, or how to do that without a kitchen as well. So that part was one of the things that helped me in developing more resilience and being more patient. One of the other things I learned from burning my boats is like exactly how long I could actually hold debt for as well for a long period of time that I didn't think was possible before. When I used to pay off my credit cards, I'd pay it off immediately. I'd have zero on my balance. And one thing that Ryan Pineda said was like, perfect credit score is not so much about the credit being perfect, but your credit being used. And in your credit being used, your credit score goes down. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're bad. It actually means kind of like how much credit you're actually using, as opposed to having, and as well having a higher credit line. Going from $30,000, $50,000 credit line, $1 million credit line, like those sorts of things of a credit line of credit that's like $1 million long, and that's a measure of how much credit that you have used to some extent. In some ways, a dipstick to the amount that you've used, rather than the amount that you're not doing right, because it also takes into account the amount of like how many on-time payments you made. If it says 100% on-time payments, if it showed that that you've held credit for a long period of time. So that was partly why it was my boat to burn, because I had spent many years not only zealously paying for my monthly payments, but never missing a payment. And then never missing a payment, I was able to get more leverage credit than most people would. In fact, it said that my credit was like in the top 80th, or out of 100% of people, I was in the 80th bracket. It's like I had a B for average person who had credit used. And that's why I thought, okay, well, this is the only thing I have to burn my boats, because I was asking the question, like, burn my boats. What would it be like to burn my boats? To get really uncomfortable, say, I'm not going back. I'm not going to do the same thing that I used to do. And that this is where I really like go all in. And burning the boats to me is also going all in. I had never said, I think there were times before where I've said that like, I'm all in, I'm whatever it takes. And although I said whatever it takes, the limit of whatever it took, what my wording of whatever it takes was like here, versus like if I'm all in, and I'm like literally as all in as I can be. I tended to have a mindset though of like bursting, like a berserk type of mindset that would make me do a lot at first. And I think that suited well for momentum. It was like, okay, I'm a lot, and then slowly taper down. The learning to also build consistency in that, of having to go all in. How can I stay all in for longer? Because it's not like a high, all in, and then I put all the chips on the table, for that sense of like what I'm trying to do, the activity that I'm trying to do. It's like a Series E funding, or like being a venture capitalist, where they throw a lot of money. There's a lot to start with, whereas as an entrepreneur without a lot of capital, it's like, yeah, you threw that all in. I gradually threw it all in. The other ideas too is like I'm reading 100 Million Models with Alex Hormozi, and like taking that framework, that baseline of like, he spent 50,000 on marketing or something to make like 1 million, and how to really understand. I think with a higher resilience and a higher limit to the mindset, the behaviors, and less emotional reactivity, or just being emotionally reactive, that it has allowed me to see things in the books that I've read, the courses that I've taken, at a different lens and different angle, from just thinking, oh, well, this is just simple. Like, the simple thing that was said, it can still feel like a math problem, or a math equation that says, like, like y equals mx plus b. Very simple. The m, the multiple, the x of the coefficient, the b of the y-intercept, to being a lot more than that, of how that changes, or in a parabola. In the same way that it's like, the simple wording that said, like, just do it, has a lot more meaning rather than just do it. In the many memories that came from, like, putting in the reps, putting in the sets, going hard, not going hard, resting, tears, the blood, the sweat, and coming back from all of that. So I, those are some things I thought about with, like, burning the boats, and where that went for me in burning boats, scaling up more my own personal headspace to know what is possible rather than what was not possible, and also finding the opportunity. One of my mentors talks about getting creative or being resourceful when there are no resources. Is like, that goes into a checklist. So, like, what is my resources? What do I have that's usable right now? If I'm feeling like I'm not enough, if I'm feeling like I don't have anything right now, that's a lot. We all have something. We all have something that we have right now that we could be grateful for. That is a resource. That is a resource right now. Even when the paycheck hasn't come in, or something's just, essentially it just feels like something's not working out right now, and I am more focused on what's not working out rather than what is working out. Tony calls it, like, staring at the deck. No, I want to crash. I'm staring at the corner that I'm going to go full speed into, rather than going full speed into the angle that is going to help me continue running this race. And this is from a perspective of Laguna Seca, on a, going in a F8 or a F1 formula, vehicle going 200 miles per hour. How you go into that turn that is also just becomes super blind. Like, you're going into a turn, you're skipping some of the curves, and you just land. And then you have to redirect and recontrol the angle to go back in and come back out. It's like a swirl of curves. And you can skip some of the curves, apparently. So, like, that's what I saw in the video. And thinking about that, about being resourceful versus not resourceful, like I don't have any resources. Finding resources when there are none, in my mind. Like, if you think about, like, field of vision, like, I'm just not seeing, like, where's the salt? Where is the salt? I don't know where the salt is. Like, you tell your kid to go look for the salt, and they can't find where the salt is. It's not here. And then you go, oh, wait, like, it's right there. Now, I think of that in some sense of, like, I am so stressed out or angry that I cannot see where the particular resource is. Like, I just can't see it. It's there, but it's not there. And in doing that, I have to get into a state that allows me to see the salt, like, see where the salt is, rather than where the salt's not. Like, and that is something that I've also had to learn to do over a period of time of being high stress, over leveraged. This may be my last month before I go bankrupt, or this may be like somehow, by the grace of God, that still not bankrupt at this moment. And then also at this point, also having to, well, how can I push myself more because money is speed into some form of being in a position to go bankrupt since money loves speed, or the opportunity is not coming fast enough in that sense. Or what it's still kind of like all in to that extent. Not to say that I would go bankrupt, but it feels like at this point in my life, it's like, am I still playing small? If I was only looking to put 3,000 here, 3,000 there, I'm thinking more in terms of how much is my monthly paycheck versus like how can I double my paycheck? What is it going to take to double my paycheck? It used to be the question was, what is $100,000 of work worth? Now it's like, what is the framework that's going to create that $100,000 of value at a speed that is matching this year, rather than just waiting to finally make 100,000. And those are things I contemplate about, in the sense of if this is not returning at the velocity or the speed at which I need it to return in order to get the outcome that I'm looking for, then what is something that I can do, and understanding the limits or the obstacles of myself, or the way that my current life is, that could get me to a point. Because there's a lot of payout going right now. I mean, like this year lost, not to boast, it's just like, it's just counting my own blessings of like losing 25 pounds or something, going from like 215 back down to like 176 or 175 at some point, probably back to 180, I don't know. But then, having to go back down, making 3 new songs without, like, I've never made like 3 new songs in years at this point. And pushing through that, being able to play in public, getting like just random gifts like that. Reaching at 1,200 views. I don't have the subscribers yet, but it's interesting to even know that I'm getting this much attention without likes, without subscribers, without comments being made. Like even now, comments are being made. Being put into different events that are high profile. I was able to get a premium app for transcribing that is also used by Diary of a CEO for free. Like, this is not available for people to use without paying for it, and I'm really grateful. It was Whisper Flow, and I was just like, wow, that helped me so much, especially because my computer went out. I'm now able to like talk about things. So all of these random rewards that I've been getting, despite, and then it's like, so these random rewards versus, but this really, really bad thing happened. And I think of it like a car crash. Special operations talks about like, getting in a gunfight's like getting in a car crash every single time. You don't know who's going to come out of it, and you just have to reorganize yourself at some point. I joked about it in the sense of like, I would listen to this song Thursday on an emo sense, where I'm just like listen to Thursday laughing, but then like every Thursday now it feels like a car crash, and I'm like, but I'm like, ha ha ha, self-fulfilling to some extent, like, but great still, love it anyways, and just being thankful. So it was like, I made entertainment. The entertainment reflects my life to some extent, or that I'm able to reach out to somebody. I cried yesterday thinking, like, just reflecting, back that I made this song Jumper at a Starbucks in Daly City. I did it like, even though I had no time, I had to redo it like 4 or 5 times, and I dropped it, and it was like 22 likes, 1,200 views. Like it was like I wish you would step off from that ledge, my friend. And I was like, I didn't think that if I played this on a Monday, that it would actually be liked so well. Because I was like, oh, like still, honestly, music seems to be the most attracting in my toolkit of like speaking at this point, which is crazy to me. Because like when I was at Ty's mansion, they were like, well, what's the thing that you've done the most in your life? And I was just like, music. Well, I was like, well, go meet a producer then. And I I had avoided that for many years, thinking that, because it's like starving musician. Well, here is starving entrepreneur as well. Oh my God, this is starving entrepreneur. They tell you about this life that's like Ernest Shackleton or something. I mean, difference though is like when you're well connected as a musician, as an entrepreneur. I mean, you're in grow houses, you're going to random parties. Like you may be starving, but you're not starving to meet people. I think that's the different part, the difference of it. Like you may not be able to eat like steak every day, but you go to these events that feel like meeting people, like that's the equivalent of like social steak or something. Like social steakhouse stuff where you're not never short of friends. I think if you're doing well as an artist or entrepreneur at some point, it's something that had to really also shift in the idea that like, oh, it's not just buckle down and isolate. And yeah, I mean, Red Hot Chili Peppers had to lock themselves in a room, but they had 5 people that they locked themselves in a room with to make their album. It's that sort of thing. It's trying to be hopeful about that as well, despite the fact being introverted and anxious and somewhat autistic because of being an engineer, um, going back to being extroverted again and just confident, open. Um, that's something that I've had to learn to embrace and learn to do more. And it's not to say that like shy, like there are some things we're all not shy about. I think that like I am definitely not shy about being a hard worker, but if I'm shy about wanting to interact with people at at a high level, it's like some people are shy to have to just open spar with a black belt. They'll run away at the situation of having to fight a black belt, but they'll definitely fight an orange belt or a green belt or a white belt, a yellow belt. I mean, if I'm thinking about like Age of Empires 4, where it's like, like if I saw a Conqueror, that's the equivalent of like a red stripe black belt, Conqueror 3. Already in my body's like, oh, like, and then I'm like, I'm out. Like people dodge Q. It's kind of like that. I mean, like dodging Q in life is like that. It's like getting like, and then I'm like, I alt F4, and then I just restart the whole game and try to find a different match to play. Same thing that could be said about somebody else's like goals and outcomes, because it's like and I've had to think about that too. Everything about video game reframing, because I was really heavy into video games. I loved Final Fantasy. I loved League of Legends. I loved Age of Empires 4. I loved role-playing video games. I loved, all of these other games that we can't talk about, fucking, like, like dating sims and stuff, or anything in the simulation space without having to get really hard into that. So, like, in thinking about those things, it's like, whenever I think about also, like, this sucks, I put a lot of work into this, and I was like, one of the things I've thought about now is like, I don't know if this helps anybody, but I mean, if you're a video gamer, you understand. Like, I grinded 30 hours of having to pick up this card or something, or like get to this storyline plot at the end of this very specific storyline that I wanted, and got to that part. I was like, yeah, like, and whenever I think about it, I never bitched or complained about none of that. I was like, I feel bad, man. I got stuck in like Final Fantasy X, and I was like, what am I complaining about, man? I should be grinding in real life at this point instead of killing random monsters on some frozen mountain that like that's the part I'm like, oh man, like that is definitely not like okay, so I can do that. Not definitely not. It was like I can continue to do that, to do something. for a long period of time, because I think that's, that's patience, that's endurance, that's stamina. And if I can just keep that gamified idea just like that. So those are some of the things. In general, it's still going back to like, in me being patient and being creative about seeing what I'm not using at the moment that I could possibly be using in order to get that better, to do better, or to use a resource I never thought about that I have as a resource, or to reopen the resource that I'm ignoring. Like, like some things about like God asked us to show the best of us. Where that entails is like, you are doing yourself a disservice if you are not highlighting like the best parts to the people, even if there was even one tiny bit of a chance of having of showing who you are, and not taking it personally too. I mean, it's not like, I mean, it's gonna sometimes feel like, man, I showed you the best version of me right now, and it's still not enough. And in some ways, it's like, yeah, okay, well, some parts that are really great about me, and there's other parts that, gotta also up level or level up. And I think in that sense, though, still like, okay, that's a resource. And the same thing, I think of like skill points. So, like, what do I need to focus on still to develop that without getting too obsessed about it? And there'll be times that I'm a very obsessive person. I'm very obsessive. I want to solve things. I want problems to be fixed. I want solutions. I want things to work out. And in doing so, that I get caught up. Like lately, I've been reflecting about that. I've been, someone has told me that somebody has closed at a higher rate or has done so. It still went back into comparing, and it still went back into like, what do I need to fix in order to make sure that I'm communicating better, and having a personal emotional attachment to the idea that I need to get my numbers up. How am I going to get my numbers up? So that I can stop doing this. Like, like getting attached to the idea that I built a connection as well. Still, unfortunately, like, I built this connection and I thought it'd work out. And even then, I'm always like, I don't want to think about that, because I'm like, a lot of people have given up at the part that was about the build. And that's okay to some extent, but it's still also like going into ideas of value, of self-worth, about who the F am I if I can't talk to this person and this, and it's too much. It's too much to ask for. Even then, it's like through the grieving stage, I don't even want to think about like what is going on in their life that is causing these issues, or who told them that this is garbage. Because I just want to look back. We have a 4.8 rating. We have a 4.8 rating. That I had a 4.87 rating on Uber, and it's still, like that. Those sorts of things. Like, this is not a bad program. This is not a bad program. And having to reconvince myself that no, I don't know what happened, but the frustration of like, this is a top tier program. May not be top three, but it is a top tier. Like, in the same way of my own self-value, like, I'm a high-value person. And I have to remind myself that I'm a high-value person, regardless of what happens, regardless of who rejects me, regardless of whatever, like, in the parts that matter, like, to myself, and the things that I worked on. And try to remind myself that doesn't translate to everything, at least when it comes to other people. Like, so having the patience to keep going again, to love feeling comfortable in the uncomfortable of having to talk to many people, things not work out, and a couple people maybe say yes, and continue to do that, at scale, and hopefully to also increase that in some way, while staying creative, while staying resilient, while staying confident, having the courage to go out every day without needing the validation to say that I need somebody to, like, that is the hardest part, when it's like, that you don't have you got to pay bills, somehow you got to make those bills work, and the conflict of everything else of this like interweave and project management thing of like, you're gonna say this is gonna get messed up in this weave basket or something of conflicts, and that's okay, because the storm, the weave is still the storm, and all we're trying to do is weather the storm so we could get to a better place and keep moving in the direction of where we're going. So if anybody like this, leave a comment, drop it below. Thanks for listening, or subscribe. Going to be coming out with the course soon and launching it on School. Thank you so much. Happy Sunday.